Now, I have a lot of friends that basically know that I make videos on YouTube about finance, that I love investing, that I invest a lot of money, and they come to me and they ask me, Tommy, how can I invest? And me knowing that they're my friends and they're basically broke, I usually say, don't invest. And it's kind of like, what do you mean? I want to invest. Why can't I invest? And I remember when I was broke, when I was super, super broke, the only thing I wanted to do was to basically not be broke. And I thought that if I don't want to be broke, the key idea is going to be to make more money. Now, because I'm broke and I basically only really have a job, I don't have that much time. So my idea is going to be very simple. I'm going to use my extra money that I basically have to put that money to work to basically increase my income. That's what people usually want to do when it comes to investing. But the way investing usually works is it's more like you invest money over a long period of time and it compounds into something great. But there aren't really any quick investments that don't require, for example, a lot of time also. And people usually want to do passive investments. And when you're broke and poor, that is not what you actually want to do at the moment, because you should be doing other things instead of trying to invest. So yes, very unpopular opinion, but people that are broke should not be investing whatsoever. That should be the last thing on your mind until you get everything else in order. And in this video, I'm going to break that down. If you guys don't know me, my name is TommyBryson. And if you do know me, welcome back to the channel. Do me a favor and smash the like button. It helps a lot with the channel. Now, the very first thing, guys, is this. Tommy, how do you define broke? I know people that make $250,000 a year and are broke. I know people that make $30,000 a year and are doing very well. And the core reason why that is because it's not about how much money you make, it's also about how much money you keep. It's not about how much money you have invested, but it's also about, for example, what is your risk level in these deals, okay? So here's the core idea. For my definition, if you have consumer debt, that's not, for example, your mortgage, you're broke. And it's because you're still a slave to your lender. If you have, for example, a ton of different investments and you basically just have a little bit of equity in them, well, guess what? All you really have is a bunch of risk and control over assets that in reality, they're not really yours, it belongs to the bank. And if something goes wrong, you might be in trouble. If you have a lot of money, for example, invested over here, invested over there, and you make a lot of money, but guess what? You don't even have an emergency fund. You're broke. If you basically spend more money than you make, you're broke. And I don't care if you make $1 million a month, if you're spending 1.2, you're broke. That's the core idea. That's my definition. And that's why I'm saying becoming financially free, having stability and safety, it's not about how much you make, it's about how much money you actually keep. So what are your priorities when you're broke? What should you be doing instead of actually investing before you get to investing? The idea is there are 3 things you should be doing first before you start investing. And the first thing is going to be you should get your budget in order. One of the worst mistakes I basically made was basically I wanted to invest without fixing my core issues when it came to my spending. There's no way you can control your spending if you don't know how much you're spending and on what you're actually spending money on. I know people out there, they don't have a budget. And they say, well, I'm doing just fine. Yeah, but you don't have a budget, so you don't really know how fine you're doing in the first place, okay? So here's my core principle when it comes to budgeting. You have 4 main expenses: shelter, utilities, groceries, transportation. Calculate how much you spend on these, okay? And also healthcare at the end if you actually have healthcare, if it's not free for you. And when you have these 5 core expenses, minus it from your income. So hey, I make $1,000 a month. My core expenses are $500. I have $500 left every single month. Every single bill that's not a necessity, if you're broke, consider cutting it. And every time you get paid, just take 5 to 10% of your money to have fun. This way, you're being responsible, but you're also having money left over to enjoy. And with your surplus, that's the money you're actually going to use to do the things you actually need to get done. And the second thing you should be doing is, well, paying off your debt. If you have debt, the Bible says, okay, the debtor is slave to the lender. And it's very true. When I had, for example, $13,000 in credit card debt, it was not easy. When I had, for example, $40,000 in loans, in student loans and business loan, it was not cool, man. Those things always are over you. And I know folks that have, for example, $700,000 in debt, $1 million in debt, and they say, well, Tommy, it's into good debt. I have real estate. And how much do you make per month? Well, I have $1 million in debt. I make approximately like $1,500 maybe a month or something like that. I'm like, you understand what you're doing is super risky. And they're like, yeah, I know, but it's good. It's gonna be paid off. And then you have things happen like COVID, and things go wrong, and they're like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do, and they go bankrupt, and they don't understand. I'm a landlord, but really, what I am is also an employee to this stuff. Okay, so it's very crazy at the core level of how they get. Okay, so my advice is pay off your debt. And this day, I have no debt whatsoever, and it's never been better. And the third thing you should do once you're actually debt free is, well, build up an emergency fund. Tommy, my job is secure. I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have an emergency fund, but I want to start investing. I knew someone that actually did this, and it was actually a girl. And guess what happened to her? Okay, she got into a car accident. She had to liquidate her investments to buy a car because obviously she didn't have a car anymore. Okay, so that's the idea. There are better, well, not better. There are other priorities to have before you start to invest. And once you're done with those three things, budgets, pay off debt, save for emergencies, then you get into investing finally. Now, how does this look in the end when you actually get to the end of the tunnel? Well, the answer is I'm here, okay? I'm at the end of the tunnel. And the answer is when you start investing, people usually are so excited, they want to dump all the extra money to invest in. But I usually advise don't do that. Just invest 10 to 20% consistently. And if it feels like it's not enough, that's exactly why I want you to do it. Because this way you can consistently keep doing it because it's not that much of a burden on you. But when you're trying to invest half of your income, some months you might not be able to do it and you might not be able to feel good about it. Okay, so the best thing you can do is basically keep a stable, consistent amount of your money being invested. I recommend between 10 to 20%. That's the core idea. And I recommend you start at the lowest level. I always do that, okay? The lowest level. Once you have the habit, build into it, build into it, build into it. Do a little bit more. That's the idea until you reach that 20% cap. Now, you also use all the extra money to buy a home or pay off your current home. Now, when you have these things settled, in the end, what you have is you have no debt. So you have no monthly payments on a car, no monthly payment on student loan debt, no monthly payments on credit card debt, none of that stuff, okay? You have a fully funded emergency account, which is awesome. You lose your job, you got 3 months to 6 months to figure that out, okay? You also have your investment account being built up, and you also have a paid off home. When your home is paid off, your core expenses, they go down substantially by 30% or so, maybe sometimes even more, because you're only paying taxes and also insurance on your home. Maybe $300 a month, $400 a month, $500 a month. That's basically it, okay? So what happens is now you basically need a lot less money. So if you wanted to, you could work less, maybe part-time. You could just start grabbing money from your investments too. It's just better off. So that's why I say, okay, when you're first getting started, when you're broke, it's not like me saying broke people should never have the opportunity to invest. No, the answer is you have better uses of your money and time when you're broke. And it's basically cleaning up the mess you made before. And I had to do that early on, and I did it the wrong way, which is basically I invested. And then something I had to pause my investments. I had to basically say, I got to do this now. So the best thing to do is clean up what's needed first and then start investing. You can do that consistently over the long run. Guys, thanks for watching this video. I appreciate you guys a ton. If you are broke, understand that you, how do I say this without it sounding corny? Understand that being broke is not like who you are. It's just what you are at this very moment, okay? So you can change this, okay? I don't believe in this whole like, you have a poor, you're gonna be poor forever. No, it's just like your current situation right now. It's like when you're dumb, you're not a dumb person. You just don't know certain things, and once you learn them, well, you're no longer ignorant in that subject anymore, okay? So same thing with money. It's a knowledge game. Once you learn enough about money, you start doing the right things, well, you can do a lot better, and then you stop being broke. If you have more coming in than you have going out, and you build a passive income, eventually you won't be broke anymore. That's the idea. Guys, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified. Up here is another video. And on top of that, thank you for everyone on Patreon. The highlighted person for this video is this guy right here. I appreciate you guys a ton. And as always, join us on Patreon. Link is down below. And Long Term Team officially out.